Welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Mathilde Lagarde. I'm the head of the Campus France office in the Czech Republic. And so this webinar will be about studies in France in social and human sciences. It will be the first of a series of webinars we organize with my colleagues from the other Campus France offices in Central Europe. So if you are also interested in other fields of studies, you can also join the next webinars in the next weeks. This webinar will be recorded and then it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if you can watch it again or share it with your friends who can also be interested. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank our guest speakers for tonight, Lukáš Macek, who is the director of the campus in Dijon of Sciences Po Paris, and Simona Prchliková, who is a student in a bachelor's degree in anthropology in Montpellier in France. So here, can everyone see my presentation? Is it working? Okay, so here's the program for tonight. First, I give you an overview of studies in France in human and social sciences. Then Mr. Macek will present to you more in details Sciences Po Paris. And then Simona Prchliková will share her experience as a Czech student in France. So we also have with us this evening students from Hungary, Austria, and Poland. So not only Czech students. And I'm very glad to see you all here tonight. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can keep them in mind for the end, or you can write them down in the chat during the webinar, and we'll answer them at the end as well. So first, what is Campus France? So I speak from my point of view in the Czech Republic, but my colleagues in the other Campus France offices in Central Europe have the same missions as me. So what I'm going to say is the same for them. Campus France is the national agency for the promotion of higher education in France. And our first job is to give students, university and high school students, to give them information about the possibilities, the opportunities for them to go and study in France, so like we are doing right now. And then we can also help students in their orientation. And once they know what they want to do and where they want to go exactly, we can also help them with the application procedures. And here in Prague, I also organize a pre-departure information session at the end of June or beginning of July, which aims at giving students who have been selected to go in France from the next September all the practical information they would need when they arrive. For instance, how to find a flat or how to deal with the health insurance. And in addition to that, I'm also in charge of the animation of the France Alumni Network. That is the network of all people who studied in France in the past. And we often organize events so that they can keep a link with France and gather and share their experience all together. So what are human and social sciences? This field is really broad, so it may be a bit hard to define, but this field has been a long tradition in France for many years, many decades, and even centuries. So that's really shaped the studies in this field in France. First, as I said, it's really broad, so it includes many different disciplines. For instance, philosophy, history, anthropology, sociology, but also communication, education, or psychology, etc. And even if it's really broad, there is one common point. Students are studying we can say this human behavior, either the current human behaviors in sociology, for instance, or the past one with historical facts. And those fields prepare students for various jobs, a large variety of jobs, either in the public or private sector. And also you can also then work in a non-profit organization, for instance, in human resources, communication, administration, etc. So even if it's broad, students have some common points in this field. I think the most important is that they have to be very curious of what's happening in the world, and because teachers can ask them to be curious outside of class and not only to focus on what's on the class, but also to bring into class their curiosity and their interest in historical, political, economic, social issues on an international context. And that's why usually you are asked to master at least one foreign language. That won't be a problem for you, I'm sure, as we are doing this webinar in English. And there is also a lot of documentary research. And that's why students are asked as well to be able to produce structured arguments, structured analyses, and synthesis as well. So if you want to study human and social sciences in France, there are different possibilities. One of them, the most common maybe, is to go to a public university. And for that, you can enter directly after your high school. And you can do bachelor's degree in 3 years, then a master's degree in 2 additional years. And if you want to do research, you can also continue with a PhD. Then there is another system in France that we call grandes écoles. So that's outside the university system. There are not universities. And if you want to enter a grande école, there are 2 main possibilities. Either you enter directly after high school, and you take and you pass the entrance exam to the school, or you can also go to a classe préparatoire aux grandes écoles to prepare during 2 years to take this entrance exam to the grande école. So you can see those studies are rather long. It's minimum 5 years of studies. If you want to study in a public university, so we'll talk about universities and then about grandes écoles. In universities, there are some requirements. First, you must know that the vast majority of programs in these fields in bachelor's degrees in public universities are taught in French only. So you must speak French. And you must prove your level in French with a DELF B2. Then there is no entrance exam to enter the university in the majority of the bachelor's degrees. You are selected on your grades from high school and also a short cover letter, but there is no entrance exam. Some fields can be studied either in grande école or universities, but some of them can be studied only in universities. For instance, it's the case of psychology. So how can you apply to a public university? You will have to go on the Parcoursup platform. It's the national application platform for all bachelor's degrees in public universities in France. And on this website, you can do up to 10 wishes. And the application is completely free. And here you have the deadlines. So those are the deadlines of this year if you want to study in France from September 25. But if you are not ready yet to go to France, those deadlines are quite the same every year. So there is always the same period of application. It's always from mid-January to mid-March, so you have 2 months. Then you have 2 or 3 additional weeks to upload your last documents, and then the universities answer back from the beginning of June. In public universities in France, you can see that the tuition fees are quite affordable because the French state finances a large part of the tuition fees in public universities. For the bachelor's degrees this year, it's 175 euros per year. For the master's, it's a bit more expensive, 250 euros, but you can see it's really affordable. And in France, you will also be able to ask for some financial help. The first one I wrote here is APL. It's not only for students, it's for everyone who's renting a flat. So it's income-based, and it can help you to pay a part of your rent. And the second one is the Crous grant. So Crous is a funny name, but if you go to France, you will hear about it every day because Crous is the institution that takes care of the student life, let's say. So they manage, for instance, some public student residencies, and they also manage the university restaurants. But they also have this scholarship that is for students up to 28 years old. It's also income-based, so it's not for everyone. And you must know that you won't be able to ask for it from the first years of studies as an international student, because to ask for it, you must prove that you have lived in France for at least one full year before. So yeah, if it's not your case, you won't be able to ask for it for your first year of studies. But if you continue in France, you can ask for it from the second year. So that was for universities and for grandes écoles. So as I said, grande école is a French higher education institution, which is not a university. And basically, we can say they are more selective, more competitive than universities, and they provide high-level study programs. In this field, in human and social sciences, the main grandes écoles are what we call Institut d'études politiques, IEP, also known as Sciences Po. So in English, it could translate as political studies institutes. You can see that the tuition fees are different from one IEP to another, and they are more expensive than universities, but don't be afraid because they can also adapt the tuition fees according to your income or your parents' income. So don't stop to that and have a look to what they can offer, because in these schools, students acquire an excellent level in general knowledge, a solid capacity for analysis through a multidisciplinary teaching in the social sciences in general. So law, economics, political sciences, history, international relations. And the programs get more and more specialized as you go up in your studies. So in the master's, you'll have to choose a specialization. And a difference from universities is the fact that there is a mandatory year abroad, including in the program, which usually takes place in the second year of bachelor's. And so students from those schools get then, they can ask for many jobs in various sectors, both public and private. So in France, we have 10 IEP. The first one, the most famous, is Sciences Po Paris. When we think about Sciences Po, we actually think about Sciences Po Paris in general. I won't say a lot about it because Mr. Macek will give you more information about it later. But you can see on the map that they have several campuses. So you can actually study in Reims, Nancy, or Dijon and still be at Sciences Po Paris. Then we also have Réseau Sciences Po, so a network of 7 IEP in other cities in France, such as Lille, Strasbourg, Lyon, for instance. And there are also two other independent Sciences Po Bordeaux and Sciences Po Grenoble. So for each one of them, the application is different and they offer different programs. So in the Réseau Sciences Po, unfortunately, their programs are only in French. So if you don't speak French, unfortunately, you won't be able to study there. And students must apply on Parcoursup, and then there is a written exam, actually 3 written exams, one in contemporary issues, one in history, one in foreign languages. And then, of course, they also take into account your grades from high school. For Sciences Po Bordeaux, they have mostly for programs for French speakers. For those ones, you must also apply on Parcoursup. And there is no written exam, but you must provide them with a copy of a written essay you wrote in high school. And then there is also an oral exam. If you don't speak French, they have 2 binational English programs in cooperation with Hong Kong and the other one with Luis University in Roma. And Sciences Po Grenoble, they have both programs in French or in English. For the French program, you must apply on Parcoursup, and then there is an oral examination. And if you don't speak French, you can apply for the international track for undergraduate English-speaking students, which is entitled Politics and International Studies. And for this one, you must apply directly on their website by April the 4th for next year. And so Sciences Po Paris, so as I said, I won't speak much about it, but just for you to let you know that they have both programs in English or in French. And there are two application procedures. If you are a student in a lycée français, you must go through Parcoursup, through Parcoursup. So with the calendar I said before. And if you study in a local high school from your country, you must apply through the international pathway by April 16th, directly on Sciences Po website. So then to finish on Grandes Écoles, as I said, they are very selective, so I can only encourage you to apply as well on Parcoursup to public universities. If you really want to go to France, I think it's safer to apply as well on Parcoursup to public universities. And if you don't take the exam, if you're not accepted to Sciences Po for next year, you can still try the exam again in the next years. So either you can apply to a bachelor's degree, any bachelor's degrees of your choice in literature, in human social sciences, economics, law, etc., and you can prepare the exam to Sciences Po in parallel. Or if you want to be helped to prepare this entrance exam, you can also apply to classe préparatoire aux Grandes Écoles, which prepares students to these exams. Or you can also apply to bachelor's degrees in the universities called Prépa Sciences Po, which can really prepare you to the Sciences Po entrance exam. And so to finish, I give you some online resources. Parcoursup, I've already talked about it. You can also use it as a browser to find different bachelor's degrees. You can filter by discipline or region. The same goes for the Campus France online catalogs, but they have a catalog for bachelor's and a catalog for master's degrees as well. There is also a catalog of all the programs taught in English. And then I put on the right here the Ficheville. So they are presentation about the different cities in France. For instance, if you've seen a school you're really interested in, but it's located in a city you've never heard about. You don't know what this city is. You can have a look on those fiche villes and have more information on the city and from a student's point of view. And here are my contact details, so don't hesitate to contact me or your local Campus France offices in your country if you have any questions. And you can also follow Campus France Czech Republic on Instagram and Facebook, because I often publish their information about all the application procedures. So now I leave the floor to Mr. Macek for presentation of Sciences Po. So do you want to share your presentation?
Yes, please.
So I remove mine.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation, Mathilde. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity to present Sciences Po to possible applicants from 4 Central European countries, if I got it correctly. So I will try to share my screen. Okay, is it visible?
Yes.
Does it seem okay? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So, first of all, thank you again, and I am here to present our institution, Sciences Po. It's France's leading university in the social sciences, as already mentioned by Mathilde. So it's true that maybe it's a little bit misleading, because I will sometimes use the term, the word university, while Mathilde explained to you the difference between university and grande école. Well, actually, it's a question of vocabulary, and actually, Sciences Po is a kind of hybrid institution. So, in a sense, at the international level, we identify ourselves as a university, because in international comparison, actually, we are very close to what a university is. But in the French system, Mathilde is definitely right that we are very different from the public university system, mostly because we are a selective institution. So you have to apply, and we admit only a small proportion of the applicants. And also we have a very specific and autonomous status, which is quite different from the one of the public universities. So I will focus mostly on our college, but I will also speak a little bit about our master's programs. But let's start with a few figures, a few facts on Sciences Po. So our institution was created back in 1872. It's a rather small university in European comparison. We have approximately 14,000 students. All programs, all the campuses put together. Well, I will not comment on all the figures you can see just in front of you. I will just mention that we are very well positioned in various rankings of higher education institutions in the field of social sciences, politics, political science, international relations, and so on. And I would like to insist on one figure you have in front of you. The proportion of international students. Approximately half of our students are not from France, and that's what makes Sciences Po a very both French and also very international institution. So studying at Sciences Po is studying in France, studying in a high-profile French university, but in a very international environment, because half of our colleagues will come from all over the world. So quickly on the bachelor, our basic assumption is that a bachelor in social sciences should be a multidisciplinary one. That the multidisciplinary approach is the best one. And that's why we don't offer bachelor specializations. You cannot get a bachelor degree in economics or in political science or in law from Sciences Po. You can only have our bachelor degree, which is an integrated multidisciplinary program in various social sciences. And this multidisciplinary program is built on 6 fundamental disciplines: economics, history, law, political science, sociology, and political humanities, or if you prefer, political philosophy. So this is the very key element to understand about Sciences Po, that we don't offer specialization at bachelor level. On the contrary, we encourage our students to keep a very broad approach and multidisciplinary approach to social sciences. Another very important point is that 2 first years of study are in France, in one of our campuses, and the 3rd year is mandatorily spent abroad in one of our partner universities. We have almost 500 partner universities in the world. So all our students can choose a destination somewhere in Europe, in North America, or in another continent, depending on their preferences. At the 2nd and 3rd year, students have to choose a major, but still it's not a real specialization. It's more about strengthening 2 disciplines students preferred in the 1st year, but still it remains a very multidisciplinary curriculum, but you will enhance 2 disciplines thanks to the system of majors. And we have a system of minors, which actually define the identity of our different campuses. So we have 7 campuses which together create the network of the Sciences Po undergraduate college. Here is the map of the campuses and the list of the minors they host. You can see that the Paris campus has no geographical minor, so there is no focus in the elective classes proposed at the Paris campus, while at the other campuses, precisely, there's a strong focus which makes actually approximately 20% of the curriculum oriented towards a concrete geographical area and the subjects, the issues which are relevant for this area. So, for instance, I'm director of the Dijon Campus. Dijon Campus is focused on European Union and especially on Central and Eastern Europe. And the key issue in Dijon is European integration and how Central and Eastern Europe is participating in the European integration process, how the East-West relations work within the EU, how the EU is handling its Eastern neighborhood relations, and so on. I will not be long on different campuses, just a quick overview. And one important point is the question of the working language. Some campuses are mostly in French. Some are the curriculum is taught in English. For instance, Le Havre campus. In Menton, we have both options. You have an English track and a French track. But what's really important to understand is that whatever the working language is, whatever the campus and the minor is, the core of the curriculum is the same. So approximately 70-80% of the curriculum is the common curriculum of the college. And we insist on that because it's really important to understand that the choice between the campuses is not a choice between a strong specialization. It's not a choice between different academic programs, because at the end of the day, the diploma, the degree is the same. There's only one bachelor degree from Sciences Po, and whatever the campus you are enrolled in, you will get to this common Sciences Po degree. So I can come back maybe if we have some time to questions and answers. I can back to differences between campuses, but I really wanted to focus on the idea that what's prevalent is the common dimension of the curriculum. I already mentioned Sciences Po is a selective university, so there's an admission procedure. It's a 2-round procedure. First, you will constitute an online application with a certain number of pieces, your grades from the high school, if you have predicted grades from for the baccalaureate or this kind of things, some recommendations from your professors as well, and so on and so on. You will also write down an essay, and that will be the first part, the written part. You will submit all this through our online platform. and we will assess all these elements. And if you achieve a certain score at the level of the application, you will be invited for an interview, which is organized online via Zoom. And it's approximately a 30-minute interview with two people from Sciences Po, testing your various skills, your reasoning skills, your ability to debate, your intellectual curiosity, your open-mindedness, and of course, your motivation for studying at Sciences Po. Now let's speak a little bit about practical issues. Mathilde already mentioned that at Sciences Po Paris, tuition fees can climb up to more than 14,000 euros per year. It's true. But for the EU students, for students whose parents are taxpayers in one of the EU member states, we have a very favorable system, very social oriented, social sensitive system, because actually the tuition fees are not automatic. They are calculated individually for every student on the basis of the income of the family. So again, I insist, to be eligible for the system, you need to have parents who are taxpayers in the EU. But if you meet this condition, then the tuition fees you will have to pay to study at Sciences Po will directly correspond to the level of income of your family. So maybe it will be zero, maybe it will be a few dozens or a few hundreds of euros, or it can go up to 14,720 euros per year. But this is only for people from whose income is really very, very high. This system is complemented with a system of scholarships and financial aid for students. So if you are one of the students who don't pay tuition fees or who pay a limited level of tuition fees, you will also be eligible for a financial aid, first from Sciences Po, later from the CRUS, the agency, the public agency Mathilde already mentioned. So, to put it simply, normally, if you are from the EU, studying at Sciences Po shouldn't be a problem from the financial point of view, because the system is very open and very, as I said, socially sensitive. Sciences Po is not only about academia, it's not only about studying, it's also a student life, a vibrant student life, a lot of associations, a lot of sport clubs, many events organized by the school or by the students. Studying at Sciences Po is also the opportunity to be part of this vibrant student life. It's also about becoming a member of an alumni network, which is quite extensive. And from the professional view, it's a high-level professional network, because you will find a lot of Sciences Po alumni in various positions of responsibility in private sector, public sector, politics, media, and so on. So you have a few examples, but of course it's a very limited sample. I will finish speaking a little bit about the master's program. So once you graduated from your bachelor, if you want, you can stay at Sciences Po and go on in master's studies. It's important to note that all the master's programs are based in Paris. So our campuses, it's only for the first and the second year of the undergraduate bachelor studies. Master's programs are all in Paris. They generally last 2 years, in general 3 semesters of study and 1 semester of internship in the field of the master. And the list of the graduate schools, we have 7 graduate schools, more or less 30 different master specializations. And the list of the schools you have in front of you will give you a quite good idea of the professional perspectives you will have after Sciences Po, because of course your professional career will depend quite a lot on the choice of the master's program and of the graduate school. So public affairs, international relations, international affairs, management and impact. It's more like business-oriented, finance, marketing, and so on. The law school, urban school, it's more focused on the development of local collectivities, local governments. School of Research, of course, it's preparing you for possibly a PhD program and a rather academic career. And School of Journalism, I think no need to explain what it is about. Here is a fast statistics on what our students become after graduation from the master's program. You can see it's very diverse, quite balanced, but some areas are more represented than the others. Public administration, public sector, auditing, consulting, these are, let's say, the most common jobs, especially first jobs for a Sciences Po alumnus. But you can see that the diversity is really very important. NGOs, culture, media, education, think tanks, communication, legal services, and so on, environment. So really many opportunities after Sciences Po you can develop depending on your preferences. So thank you very much. I hope I was not too long. And if we have some time later during this webinar, and if I may answer some questions, of course, I will be very happy to do so. If not, and if I totally used all my time, again, I hope it was useful, it was interesting, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this overview of what Sciences Po can offer students. So now Simona is here as well to share her experience as a Czech student in France. Sorry. So Simona, yeah, she's coming, and I share my screen again.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Nice.
So I'm just sharing my screen, and here it is. Yes. So thank you again for accepting to speak about your experience as a Czech student in France. First of all, could you maybe introduce yourself? Tell us where you were in high school, for how long have you been in France, what you are studying, etc.
Okay, so hello again. I'm Simona Prchliková, and currently I'm studying in Norway. I'm on my Erasmus exchange here, but my home university is in Montpellier in the south of France, where I study anthropology. And my first experience in France was when I applied back to 2020 for a program Un an en France, and I was chosen so I could go to France for my first experience there, and I studied there at high school. And a few years later, I graduated, and I decided to go back to France for my university studies. And I study at high school in Prague, at grammar school Jan Neruda. Maybe you know this high school. We have two different sections. One section is French, one section is Czech, but I followed only the general section curriculum. But French culture was everywhere around me, so that was also one of the reasons why I later decided to go to France. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And could you tell us a bit more in details why you chose to study in France?
So when I started to learn French, I really liked the language, so this was the main thing of why I wanted to go to France. But then when I visited France for the first time and second time, I was impressed by the culture, and also I made friends there, and I was really interested in discovering more and more. So and I know that France is culturally rich, and for my anthropology studies it was just good match.
Okay, so were you thinking about going in France have you been thinking about it for a long time, or was it more a last minute decision?
Yeah, actually, when I left France after my experience with the program Anna en France, I already knew that I want to go back. I didn't know if just for holidays or for longer stays, for example, studies. But yeah, I wanted to study anthropology, and I was deciding between staying in Prague or going abroad. And France won because I wanted to challenge myself, and staying home didn't seem that challenging. So I decided to go to France.
Okay. Can you give us some more information about your university in France and about Montpellier? What's this city is like?
So Montpellier is really student city. It's perfect for student life. I don't know the numbers, but I've heard that big part of the population there are students, and you can feel it. It's really um, alive. There's a lot of events on, and the nature is also beautiful. We have mountains not that far. We have a sea, and the architecture is also really nice. So for social life, it's perfect. And did you ask me about my university too, or only about the city?
Yes.
My
Yes,
university.
yes.
Okay, so my university is called Université Paul Valéry of Montpellier. They recently changed a little bit the name, but yeah, this is the name. And this university is mainly for students of human sciences, but also there are some programs in environmental studies, geography, and this kind of programs. They focus on languages, literature, yeah, and I decided to study anthropology and humanities there.
And so you learned French before going to France. Do you
Mhm.
think it's mandatory to speak French, or do you know other international students who arrived without any knowledge of the language?
I think if your program is taught in English, then it shouldn't be a problem if you don't speak French. But if you want to feel more integrated and feel more yeah, integrated, I think it's much better to speak the language. When I remember when I went to France for my first time to study there, and my level was, I would say, A2, and I was struggling a lot in the beginning of my program there, but with some time it got better and better, of course. But I wouldn't say that it's mandatory, but it's beneficial.
Yeah, and then you can still learn or improve your language skills on the spot.
Yes, exactly.
Um, Maybe something a bit more negative. Maybe could you tell us what has been the biggest difficulty you have faced when you arrived in France and how you overcame it?
Yeah, so it's a bit cliche, but the biggest issues I experienced were always with administration and stuff like this. When I wanted to pay electricity, or I was trying to apply for APR or stuff like this, and yeah, so the administration was the biggest issue I came across, but I didn't let them like abandon this. I don't know how to say it. I didn't give up. So I was trying again and again and asking them again, and finally I got what I was asking for, but it got way longer than I expected. So yeah, the administration was the biggest issue.
Yeah, I think it's not only a cliche. There is a lot of paperwork to do when you arrive in France, but
Yes.
as there is in other countries. So I think the most important thing is to anticipate. And also in many universities, there are this kind of buddy system where all the students can, French or an older international student can help international students who just arrived. And so that can be really useful, I think, for this kind of situation.
Yes, my university offered me to have someone who will help me with this paperwork, but then I managed to do it by myself. But yeah, buddy system is perfect.
Yeah, great. And I know in France we have this image. We think the Czech Republic is really far from us. So, and I don't speak about Hungary and Poland. It may seem even farther, but in fact, it's not so far away. So, do you often go back to the Czech Republic, or how do you do?
Not really. I went only for Christmas break and then for summer holidays because Montpellier is quite far from
In the south, yeah.
my place. So if it was Paris, it would be much easier to get home. But still, France has a lot of holidays, so or comparing to other university systems. So of course, it's possible to go home quite often. But I wanted to spend more time in France, so I didn't use that time for visiting my family that often.
Okay. What do you think is the biggest difference you experienced between France and the Czech Republic?
The biggest difference, yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning, France is much more diverse in terms of culture. So for me, yeah, it's still something that I can see as different. But then also I have experience only from the southern part of
Mm,
France. So I would say that people there are uh, more not open-minded, but more open to new people and more extroverted.
yeah.
So yeah, sometimes when I go back home, I can see those angry faces and not that positive looking, but of course we cannot generalize. But yes, I would say the culture it's more diverse in France.
Mm.
And I don't know, I cannot compare university systems because I have the experience only from France, now from Norway, but not from the Czech Republic. So I don't really know.
And so that must be very interesting for you as you're studying anthropology, those these differences in cultures.
Mhm.
So, do you think uh, it is what you gained from studying in France in comparison if you have stayed, if you would have stayed in the Czech Republic?
Yeah, I think I'm not really sure, but in the Czech Republic, at least we have much less universities than in France. So anthropology programs are more limited in the Czech Republic than in France, which means that I think in France it's easier to study anthropology, and also because of unfortunately because of the colonial history of France, this is a topic which is talked today, and anthropology, of course, is strongly linked with colonialism. So France is the place where they offer those programs, and I think also France has more connections with international institutions. So for me as anthropology student is it was more attractive to apply to France rather to Czech Republic. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, yes, perfectly. And do you know what you want to do after your studies? What kind of job you'd like to do?
Not really job. No, not really. But like this year is my second year of bachelor's degree, and for next year I'm planning to change my direction a little bit. I still want to stay in social sciences, but add more of environmental aspects. So I'll see next year, but for a job, I have no idea.
Okay, thank you. And to finish, would you have any advice for the students watching us now? If they hesitate to go to France, what would you tell them?
Give it a chance. It's always nice to go out from your comfort zone. Don't be afraid if you don't feel that confident in French language. Don't be afraid. France offer that maybe your future university offers French courses for foreigners. So don't be afraid, and you can always come back home. And yeah, don't be afraid. And if there is something like some issue, don't be afraid. Just try to figure it out. Ask for help. But France can offer like really great experiences and yeah, so don't be afraid and just give it a try.
Okay, thank you very much. So we still have 5-10 minutes for some questions. So don't hesitate if you want to ask questions to the three of us. I have seen we already have 2 questions in the Q&A. The first one is a degree of a grande école more valuable than a diploma of a university? I think it depends on the field first, and then I know Mr. Macek, if you want to add something, but I think it depends on the field, and maybe Sciences Po is really world known. So if you want to study to work then on an international scale, it's more famous. So recruiters will know about it, but it doesn't mean that university degrees are worse than Sciences Po. I don't know if you want to add something.
No, it's a very relative thing, so no, I will not really develop on that. But maybe there are 2 other questions focused on Sciences Po, so if you want me to answer, I can try.
The second one is to apply to Sciences Po through the international admission pathway. Do you need to include the predicted, so it's a Czech context, maturita grades and the final vysvědčení? So I don't know what vysvědčení are.
Well, of course, it depends on the date when you apply, because you can apply between end of October and mid-April approximately. So the basic idea is that you put in your application all you can. So the latest possible vysvědčení, so record from the school, and also we need, if you are in a system where an official system of predicted grades is available, you will use this. So it's mostly in the IB schools, for instance. If you are in a system where there is no formal system of anticipated baccalaureate exams or predicted grades, then we will use your results from the previous years, which can be considered as a good hint on what your maturita will look like. So that's the system.
Okay, we also have other questions for Sciences Po. Could you briefly explain the main importance advantages of the dual program at Sciences Po? Can I submit multiple applications to Sciences Po for traditional studies or multiple dual programs?
Yeah. Well, basically, I think you can combine two actually. So you can apply for one dual degree and for the general Sciences Po bachelor. And within your application for the Sciences Po bachelor, you will have to indicate your first and second choice for the campus, for the choice of the minor. But it will be considered as one choice because we consider that what it is about mostly is the admission for Sciences Po, and only when you are admitted, we will decide where you will be affected, to which campus you will be affected. Well, the importance, advantages of the dual programs, it's very relative because it depends on your project, it depends on because there are some dual degrees which have quite a strong thematic dimension. For instance, we have some dual degrees focused on sciences, on natural sciences. So this is very specific, and it's really meant for a very specific profile of students. Other dual degrees are not really specific in terms of the content because they will remain more or less in the same field like the Sciences Po bachelor, but you will combine two academic approaches between Sciences Po France on one side and another university, for instance, UCL in London, or La Louis in Rome, or Freie Universität in Berlin, or Columbia in New York, and so on. So I would say you have as many advantages as you actually. Well, every dual degree has a specificity, and but again, these dual degrees are rather exceptions. It's for a limited number of students, and well, we mostly recruit our students for our regular bachelor degree, which is totally sufficient for itself. But if you want to bring a stronger international feature to your bachelor, and if you are already ready to add 1 year, because in general these programs are 4-year programs, so 1 year more than the normal bachelor, well, then it can be an interesting option, obviously.
Okay, thank you. And there are also other questions for Sciences Po. How helpful is the past connection with France for studying in English at Sciences Po? For example, 1 year of study at the French high school, the bac français exam, or knowledge of the French language, etc. Yeah. Is it useful to have learned French or French culture if you want to study in English at Sciences Po?
Obviously, when there are two working languages at Sciences Po, French and English. So obviously, if you master both of them, it's a big advantage because the whole offer, the whole academic offer, and the whole everyday life of the institution will be accessible to you. If you don't speak French, or if the level of French you have is quite low, a substantial proportion of what's going on in the university and an important proportion of classes will not be available. So English is enough, but obviously it's better if you master also the French, and that's why we, of course, invite our students, even if they come with no knowledge of French, to start studying French. And we definitely think that at the end of the day, it would be good to become fluent in both languages. So I would say it's a huge advantage once you are at Sciences Po. It's not necessarily a relevant advantage for the admission procedure, because admission is meant, to admit both students who already have strong links with France and good knowledge of French, but it's also meant for students who will discover all this once they come. So for the admission, I would say it's not so much an issue, but obviously for your future life in France and at Sciences Po, being already familiar with France and with French language is a big advantage. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next question is more about the graduate programs. Can I apply to a master's program in Sciences Po if I have a degree from abroad? And what is the acceptance rate?
Well, the answer is definitely yes. You can enter Sciences Po at every level. So you can enter at the college, bachelor, master's, or PhD. So of course there's a question of eligibility. So you need to prove that you have a bachelor from another university, and always there will be a selection. So the admission is selective at all levels. I don't know exactly what's the acceptance rate, and by the way, I think it will be quite different from a master degree to another. So I'm sorry, I will not answer this question, but definitely you can study your bachelor in your country, for instance, and apply for Sciences Po only to get directly to one of our master's programs in Paris.
Okay, and last one is not a question, but someone, sorry, I don't know your name because you have so Vlasti Milkrist tell us that he's or she's planning to apply to Sciences Po.
Okay, so the same high school like Simona, I guess.
It's Jan Neruda, I think, yeah. Okay. So, do you have any other questions before we put an end to this webinar? If you don't, let me just remind you or tell you about the next webinars we organize in this series. So don't hesitate to share the information with your classmates. They may be interested as well. So Campus France Austria is organizing a webinar about medicine on this Thursday at 5 p.m. Campus France in Poland is organizing one about engineering on the 12th. And Campus France Hungary is organizing the last webinar about management, School of Management, business schools, on the 17th of February at 5 p.m. as well. So if you're interested in them, you can also register and follow those webinars. So I think we don't have any additional questions. So thank you to both of you for accepting to attend and speak during this webinar tonight. I think it was really interesting for the students, and thank you all for attending this webinar. And if you have any additional questions, don't hesitate to write to your Campus France offices in your country. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye.